Good evening and a very warm welcome to you on this fine Monday evening, the 10th of July. Thank you for being a part of tonight's show. It's the Game of Two Halves, powered by the Geelong Region Soccer Show, and it's my absolute pleasure to be with you here tonight. My name is Tonchi Prusak. I'm the host each Monday evening, and I tell you what, it is going to be a superb show tonight. We've got lots of guests for you. Lots of exciting things for you and news and views from the latest round of matches played over the weekend. Firstly, now the global game segment, we've got Anthony Hayes. Now, he's an interesting fella. He's only a young coach. He's an assistant manager at Charlton Athletic Football Club, and it's an exclusive interview that the director of Euro football star Ray Wood had with him just previously on his recent trip to Turkey. So it's an interesting interview. Only goes for about 11 minutes, but it talks about some interesting things, amongst other things, the concept of whether young players should be played up age groups or should they stay in their own designated age group. And he's got an interesting comment to make about that. In the local game segment, the second part of our show, the second half of our Game of Two Halves podcast, we will be speaking to Simon Blanch. Simon is the head coach of the Barwon Soccer Club Senior Women's team. And over the weekend, we saw the local competition, the Geelong Region Women's Division competition, divided up into a Division 1 and Division 2. So Barwon Soccer Club are in Division 1. And we'll be talking about that concept. Has it been handled well by Football Victoria's competitions department this year? Could it have been done differently? We'll also talk about the general state of play of women's football. And look, as the Women's World Cup is getting closer and closer and closer, tonight we will be paying quite a fair bit of attention to the state of the women's game here locally. Next week as well, we've also got a young lass who's from Geelong, and she's doing very, very well in the National Premier League Women's Victoria competition. We'll also be speaking to someone from Geelong Galaxy United. Hopefully it will be the president, Marina Krasic. And we'll be talking to someone from Galaxy about that club and all the exciting things that are happening both on the park and off the park as well. But that's next week, folks. Tonight we've got, as we said, the jam-packed show, and we've got a lot to get through tonight. Big shout out to all of our sponsors, all of our supporters, all of our fans, but also our members. So become a member of the Game of Two Halves podcast and receive the exclusive Geelong Weekly Football News Bulletin every week, every Friday, in fact. And there it is. Sign for as little as $5 per month. That's nothing. That's the price of a medium cappuccino these days. Absolutely nothing. To sign up, it's www.patreon.com/Geelong Region Soccer Show. Look, apart from that $5 helping the Geelong Region Soccer Show, also, you'll be receiving a weekly newsletter with articles published about the Geelong region. So you'll be exclusively receiving those those articles. Folks, it's time now to head off to our first part of the show, which is the Global Game segment. And that is proudly brought to you by Euro Football Star. Don't go away. On the other side of the little break, it's Anthony Hughes. He's Charlton Athletic FC's assistant manager.
We are coming live to the Champions League final festival fan park, and as you can see, we've got the beautiful Champions League trophy behind us, and I believe we've got a very special guest joining us all the way from England. We've got Anthony Hayes of Charlton Athletic. How are you, Anthony?
Good, Ray. Nice to hear from you.
Thanks, buddy. Thank you for giving us a few minutes of your time. Now, we're just beaming back to some of our listeners and players back in Australia, and we're just going to do a little bit of a backfill on where we first met. So we met many years ago, and I think, if memory serves me right, it was 2012 maybe, during the UEFA A course. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I was thinking about that this morning. Long time ago, down in Cork most of the time, I think, in Ireland.
A long, long time ago. But since our paths went in sort of separate directions, I was at Leicester City at the time, and then ended up over in France at PSG for a little bit, and ended up back in Australia. But since I last seen you, obviously we know you're at Charlton Athletic, but can you just tell us a little bit about your journey on how you got to Charlton Athletic and which way you went?
Yeah, so just before I met yourself, Ray, in 2012, I'm obviously from the Republic of Ireland originally. Grew up there, played football there, started my coaching journey there. In 2010, I had a chance to go to America, so I went to America for a year. I met my now wife, then girlfriend in America, and followed her back to London. So when I first met yourself, I was working for Brentford's academy, various roles at the academy. They decided to close their academy in May of 2016. I joined Charlton in June of 2016. First of all as a 16s league coach, and then I've basically worked my way up to be the assistant manager. So I was the 16s lead, under 18s assistant coach, 18s league coach, 21s league coach, first team assistant manager, and for a little period last season I was the caretaker manager as well.
Mate, that's amazing. It's a watching you over the past couple of years, and we love keeping an eye on a couple of certain teams, and Charlton's been one of them. We've been keeping an eye on for the past couple of years, and I'm so glad to see you pushing on with your career, mate. So when are you going to get that job at Manchester United? Are you going to be the head coach eventually?
Small steps, Ray, but you have to dream big, eh? You have to dream big.
That's it, mate. You've got to aim for the stars, and then hopefully we'll get where you need to be. Now, I've got a couple of questions from some of our players. We work with players anything from 10 to 23 years of age to try and help them with their football. And one of the first questions that we got was, what is probably one of the best attributes you could have off the park as a player to make it as a player?
Good question. I would say the most important attribute has got to be down to the player's mentality. There's a lot of distractions out there for young players, particularly if they're at that level where they're playing full-time football or aspiring to be a professional football player. So it's really important to be dedicated, disciplined, and you do everything right in terms of your nutrition, your hydration, your sleep, which is massively important for recovery. And that will give you the best chance of optimising your performance on the training pitch.
That's amazing, mate. And actually, our next question was around sleep. One of our players is really getting involved with the mum and dad at the moment, and they've read a book on sleep, and they're really getting into it to try and help them and benefit them with their football. And in regards to like Charlton Athletic, how deep do you guys go with the players in regards to sleep? And do you even go down to the level of recording the sleep for each of the players and look at the stats and data and the different levels of REM that they're getting into?
So we don't have that resource, Ray, but I think we're trying to look into it a little bit more. We do well-being questionnaires every day with the players, which the players have to fill in and be as honest and transparent as possible. It's not to try and catch players out. It's to do with their mental well-being and their physical well-being with fatigue. That's physical and mental. In terms of their sleep, a lot of it now can be done through your Apple Watches or kind of Watch Now. So a lot of the players have taken more of an interest in it. Some of the younger ones have found it more challenging because of, say, like the Xbox or the PlayStation, where they might find themselves going home in the afternoon and they might end up playing that console to the early hours of the morning, which obviously then impacts their sleep for the evening, and it doesn't allow them to get into a deep sleep. And just little ways we've tried to manage that is to very, very simply give them naps throughout the afternoon when they get home. So little napping strategies to help top up if they haven't had a good night's sleep.
Yeah, that's amazing. Now, one of the other questions that we've got as well, Anthony, was around the reason in Australia we have players that have to be kept in their ages. We don't allow them to play up in their age groups. And do you believe it's beneficial for players to be allowed to play up age groups if they're good enough, or do you think they should stay in their age groups?
No, absolutely. Yeah, I think every individual is unique. They'll all be on different journeys. One of the quotes I kind of live my life by is never look sideways to compare, only for inspiration. So I don't think anybody should be looking at other people and looking at their journey and comparing it to their own. They can look at that individual for some inspiration, and certain players at certain times will need that extension and challenge of playing beyond their age range. Absolutely. And it works the other way, where you might have a late developer and the level of success that he or she may be getting in their own age group is minimal because physically they're not developed at the same age as some of their teammates or peers. So again, for them to get some success, it might be in their best interest to maybe play down an age group to get some success and repetition, and to make them aware that they're a very good player, but they're just on a different pathway in terms of their physical maturation. So I think it works both ways.
Yeah, that's an amazing answer. It's a great way to look at one of the things that we're trying to do in Australia at the moment, for sure, to push that advice that based on the maturation and the physical size should determine whether they should play up or not. But we've got so many players who are good enough to play up, but they're just not allowed to play up. And I just believe it's hindering development a little bit. Now, we've got one more question for you, mate, and it's actually from one of our coaches, which is a great question as well. And we do work with a lot of coaches in Australia. They've asked, outside of football qualifications, as a coach yourself, Anthony, have you upskilled yourself in any other areas, or have you educated yourself in any other areas outside of actual coaching badges? And if so, what did you do?
So before I became a coach, a professional coach, I went to university, and I've got a bachelor's of business studies degree, which was a pathway I was looking at walking down at some point in my life a long time ago. But that's just, I suppose, an external qualification that I feel it's beneficial to have. The biggest thing I've looked at, and obviously at myself, I'm a young coach. I'm on a journey. I'm an ambitious person, but if I looked at, the elite managers and coaches, what they all have as a life skill is they're all able to speak a second, third, or even a fourth language. So one of the things I'm currently undertaking is I'm actually doing a German and Spanish course, because one of the ambitions in my coaching journey is to at some point work abroad in a country where I don't speak the language. So my advice to any coach, the qualifications, like you alluded to, Ray, as you know, are so important. The experiences then of actually practically coaching are really important. The environments that you're in are unbelievably important, and the people you surround yourself with. But learn a second language, it's a life skill, and it'll open so many different avenues for you.
Mate, you just hit the nail on the head. So part of our Pro Player Pathway program that we offer in Australia, if the players aren't successful in making it as a player, we actually get them to travel into Spain and France as part of their football and actually learn a language over that 1 or 2 years. And then we have an opportunity, if they don't make it as a player, we take them on as a coach, traveling the globe with us, and then hopefully upskilling them into getting that second or third additional language. So that's, just amazing that you've alluded to that, and that's one piece of great information.
And just lastly, Ray, I think it would be definitely worthwhile mentioning for your audience, and I'm not sure if they'll be aware of this, but we've got 2 Australian boys at Charlton Athletic Football Club. Ashley Brewer is our goalkeeper. He's a 23-year-old Australian boy who came over from Perth when he was 16 years of age. Smashing kid, and I mentioned about mentality and character, and there's no better example in terms of Ashley Brewer and how he conducts himself both on and off the pitch in giving himself the best chance to perform at his maximum levels. And he's pretty much established himself as the number 1 in the second half of last season, which is a wonderful achievement. And we've got another young football player. He's in our under-21s, but he's an Australian under-20 international. His name's Matthew Dench. He's a left back. He was a central midfielder when he first joined. Similar to Ashley, he came over when he was 16, again from Perth. Smashing fella, bit of a quiet assassin, wonderful left foot, and he's someone who's made a life-changing adaptation to living in Europe. And both of them are a credit to the country, but also to the people that's looked after them and helped them prepare them for that journey.
Yeah, it's amazing we finished on that note, mate, because this is one of the areas that I've discovered in Australia. We've got phenomenal athletes. The big problem we've got is at the age of about 13, 14, for some reason, there's a big drop-off. And we've actually discovered why that drop-off's there. And that's our secret that we don't tell anyone, but we're now pulling in more and more players onto our programme. We are going to be over in London in September as well, Anthony, and I've actually reached out because I was aware of the 2 Australian players. And also what we're looking to do is we're looking to maybe come and visit Charlton Athletic. We've actually got a group of 106 guests coming from Australia in September. So I'll reach out to you on messages, Anthony. We'd love to hook in with you and come and pay you a visit and come and bring all the Aussies to support you on for one of your matches.
Brilliant. Well, absolutely, Ray. We'd love to facilitate that. So keep in touch and drop us a message before you travel, and we'll get something sorted. No problem.
Thanks very much, Anthony. Guys, that's a big thank you to Anthony all the way back in the UK, and thank you to me, Euro football star.
Mist Air Conditioning and Mechanical Services is one of Geelong's premier domestic air conditioning companies. The company is a venture by the directors of a major commercial mechanical services company which has over 45 years combined experience in the air conditioning sector all over Australia. Our service and vast industry connections will ensure that Mist AC will not only be competitive in price, it will also get you, the client, ongoing service needs for your home or office. With a 7-year guarantee on all our workmanship, you can rest assured you will never be left out in the cold. Whether you are renovating or building your new family home, Mist can provide all types of ducted, split or reverse cycle air conditioning for your environment. We offer a total solution suitable to your family's needs. To find out more, visit our website at www.misthc.com.au or email us at info@misthc.com.au or call us now on 5278 6478. Welcome back to the Game of Two Halves podcast, powered by the Geelong Region Soccer Show. It's an absolute pleasure to have your company with us tonight, folks. It is time now for the local game segment of tonight's show, and we've got quite a fair bit to cover in tonight's game. First of all, let's have a look at Media Watch and what has been happening in the local press over the last few days. Barwon braces for Coasters Test. That was in Friday's paper, Friday's edition, focusing on the State League 4 local derby clash between Barwon and Surf Coast. We'll talk a little bit about that later on. In Saturday's edition, super excited, Julian pumped for National Soccer Champs, young 11-year-old Julian Ryan from Geelong. He has been selected in the School Sports Victorian boys under-12 team, the state under-12 team. For the second year running, Geelong has had boys in the under-12 boys team. Last year we had Joe Davies and Richie Mann. This year it's young Julian Ryan. Also, there were two girls in the girls team last year. And late on the far left-hand side in today's paper, latest loss has Lions in a lurch. Geelong Soccer Club goes down at home. And, it's time now to talk about what happened over the weekend. But before we look at the roundup, what happened on the actual pitch, last week we had Andy Paschalidis, a very well-known football media personality here in this country, a former commentator with SBS television and in Fox Sports in the early days. He is now the director of Heartbeat for Football, or Heartbeat of Football. We had him on the show last week, and this week he had an activation, a series of free health checks and heart checks out at Elcho Park yesterday during the NPL Victoria derby game between the North Geelong Warriors and the Melbourne Knights. During the actual activation, I caught up with Andy, and this is what he had. We've got the Heartbeat for Football director, Andy Paschalidis, someone well known to Australian football circles and who's been on our sister podcasts in recent weeks, Oscro Soccer Show and indeed the Game of Two Halves. But now it's the Football Out West Show. Andy, welcome to the Football Out West Show. How's the activations, the Heartbeat for Football activations gone this week in Victoria?
Fantastic. I mean, we this time last weekend we were at Casey for the Victorian Special State Games, which includes football, and then it really ramped up on Thursday. We were at Balmoral Football Club at Derrimut. Then on Friday we went to the Community Business Luncheon. Football Victoria had a bit of a stand there, a bit of an activation, just to get the awareness out there. And then it was brilliant. Friday night at Dinamore, Women's Dinamore. What I found interesting now is that people were coming up and being checked without us sort of pushing them. It's a little bit different because we're right on the pitch, so people want to watch their sons play, and I get that. So it's a bit of a difference in terms of that engagement. But we're hoping to get about 50 or 60 people checked, which is the sort of norm. And in between all that, we had a wonderful day at Bendigo. The first time I've been to Bendigo. It's good for us to get out of Sydney, as we are in Geelong today. And Avondale played Dandenong. Boy, oh boy, what a game. I mean, I've never seen him this season. It was great to meet up with Zoran Markovsky. Obviously here, he was here with Melbourne Grace, obviously, he's been here before. And to come back to Geelong and to just have lunch now with the Sabinsky family, it's been that sort of level of engagement. And tomorrow night we're at Alamein FC and Heidelberg and the Players Football Association, Glen Ira, so it doesn't stop.
Yeah, and overall, how are you finding people? Are they becoming a lot more aware of heart-related issues, cholesterol, blood pressure, etc.? Because we're dealing with a demographic where predominantly males are very proud and very stubborn and very reluctant. Are things changing?
Absolutely. When we're in trouble, instead of going to see a GP for a regular checkup, even though we're not presenting with issues, this model here that you're going to be checked on. You're getting checked. Becca will tell you, you're getting checked for blood pressure, blood sugar, and cholesterol. They're three modifiable risk factors, three things that you can work on. We do know that the average this year is literally 1 in 2. It's around 51% of people checked can present with an issue. Even at Avondale, with a lot of their footballers, we found that a few of them had some issues as well. So, heart disease, cardiovascular is not about old guys in their 50s and 60s with pot bellies, running around playing a Sunday game, then having 4 beers and smoking 25 cigarettes. Cardiovascular can affect anyone, any age, any shape, any religious background, anything. It is something that we should all really take a close look at.
There you go. That was Andy Paschalidis. And if you are interested in hearing the full interview from last week and you didn't catch it on our show last week, do go to our YouTube channel, the Geelong Region Soccer Show YouTube channel, and you will be able to see that interview along with all of our past episodes as well. But very, very shortly, we've got our guest tonight in the local game segment of the show, SIMON BLANCH. He's the Barwon Soccer Club Senior Women's head coach. He'll be joining us very shortly. In fact, Simon is already in the green room getting ready for tonight's interview. So we're going to whiz through what happened over the weekend. By and large, it hasn't been a very good year for Geelong clubs in the NPL and State League competitions, but there were some glimmers of hope emanating from some of the results played on the weekend. But let's take a look at the ladder for the NPL Victoria competition. And unfortunately, this is anything but good news. North Geelong hosted sister club Melbourne Knights yesterday at Elcho Park. The Melbourne Knights were very dominant from the outset. They controlled proceedings, and in the end, they won 3-0. Dandenong Thunder is the Warriors' next opponent next Saturday night at George Andrews Reserve in Melbourne. That game kicks off at 7:15 p.m. Of course, all the NPL Victoria games this year are being streamed live, which includes all the games featuring North Geelong. So obviously, if you can't get to this game, you'll be able to watch the game on NPL TV. In NPL 3 Victoria competition, Geelong hosted North Sunshine Eagles at Stead Park on the weekend and went down 2-0. Another disappointing result that now sees Geelong Soccer Club in second last position in the relegation zone. And in today's Geelong advertiser, Ted Latamanski laments that he's been unable to field the same team twice, and with injuries and unavailabilities, it's just getting very hard to get a sense of consistency at Stead Park. But this week they take on Nunawading City, 3 p.m. kickoff on Saturday at Marnie's Reserve. They'll be certainly looking for a win, and it is very close. A win would take Geelong potentially to 8th position. So it's very tight at the bottom there, no doubt, as far as the battle for survival is concerned. Moving on to State League 1, Corio came up against one of the informed teams of the competition, Sydenham Park, who are currently in second position and breathing down the neck of runaway competition leaders Altona City. In this game, in this round, Altona City was held to a 1-1 draw with, I believe it was Westgate, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, the important thing here is that Corio unfortunately didn't win. They didn't get a point, and they are now languishing at the moment in second last position. Now, Max Nogler scored in the 88th minute. We believe it was his first goal on senior debut. So he scored a goal on debut. Santino Mamone or Mario Gregorio, who are in the chat, I'm sure they can confirm if that is the case. And Corio now take on Upfield, so 6th placed Upfield, in the next round this Saturday. That's away at Gibb Reserve. Now, the top four ranked Geelong men's teams have really struggled, and all of them find themselves in relegation situations, except for Geelong Rangers, who managed to that graphics is a bit wonky, but Geelong Rangers managed to escape the relegation zone after defeating Altona North 1-0. And they've leapfrogged Altona North out of the relegation zone into 10th position. They're 2 points ahead of Altona North and a further 4 points, 4 points in total ahead of bottom-placed Epping City. So a valuable win on the weekend for the Rangers. James Hiddich scoring in the 62nd minute. This week, the Rangers travel to HR Uren Reserve, where they will be taking on Layla United. Layla United have had somewhat of an indifferent season. They're currently in 8th position, so it is a winnable game for the Gers, and we certainly hope that they can come back from the HR Uren Reserve on Saturday with all 3 competition points. Okay, let's move along to State League 4, and this is probably the one division that is providing Geelong football fans with hope that we will see a club get promoted this year. Before we talk about the Surf Coast Barwon game, let's talk about Bell Park's fantastic away win over Keilor Wolves. 1-0 against the Keilor Wolves. The Wolves are a tough side, and up until recently, they were figuring prominently for a fight for that second spot, which will lead to a promotion playoff. It's only the top team that gets automatically promoted. But Joseph Prpic scoring in the 31st minute. He's been scoring quite a few goals in recent weeks. Now, round 17 action this weekend sees Bell Park host Moonee Ponds United at home. So a win here will get Bell Park closer and closer to that mid-table zone, if you like, and certainly away from the relegation zone, although they're fairly comfortably placed at the moment. But the big game happened down at Banyul Warri Reserve on Saturday night. Surf Coast taking on Barwon, near neighbours Barwon, and there's a growing rivalry between these two clubs. But in the end, it was, Surf Coast absolutely annihilated Barwon, 7-2. The goals were scored by Yashko Karnovic, 2, Matt Humphreys, Bradley Verrill, Matt Zilovets, John Piker in the 90th minute, a penalty, and Real Mayuom. For Barwon, both goals were scored by young superboot Milton Bailey. This weekend, Barwon City are taking on Melbourne City at Barwon Soccer Club. Sorry, not Barwon City. Barwon Soccer Club taking on Melbourne City at Edwards Reserve in Spotswood at 3 p.m. And then the big game, the top of the table clash, first versus second. Laverton hosts Surf Coast at HD Graham Reserve. That's at 5 p.m. A big game, that one. If Surf Coast manage to win this game, well, they will be 1 point behind Laverton and with a much better, much more superior goal difference. So this is a big game coming up this weekend for the Coasters, and hopefully they can return with all 3 points in tow. The final competition in the state leagues we'll look at is a State League 5 men's competition. And Deakin Ducks took on Lara United in the local derby. This was on Friday night at Lara Recreation Reserve. It only took 1 goal, and that was in the 18th minute, to separate the two teams. Unfortunately for the home side, it was the visitors, the Deakin Ducks, who came away with all 3 points. Troy Harrison scoring, as we said, in the 18th minute. Surfside Waves hosted West Point, and they lost 1-4. Daniel Benso scored in the 69th minute via a penalty. It's his 8th goal this season, so quite an incredible achievement by the youngster in the team that is really struggling this year, but he's managed to score 8 goals. In fact, almost half of his team's entire tally of 19 goals. This weekend, we see, first of all, go to the ladders. Lara United are in 5th position at the moment with 26 points. Deakin Ducks in 7th position with 18 points. And Surfside Waves in second last position with 4 points. Next week, Deakin Ducks travel to Tom Roberts Reserve to take on West Point. That's going to be a tough game, second placed West Point. While Lara United will embark on somewhat of I guess you could call it a team building trip when they travel up to Bendigo to take on Bendigo City at Epsom Huntley Recreational Reserve. That's at 5 p.m. kickoff. Surfside Waves, they, on the other hand, they've got a really tough assignment at home at Shell Road Reserve when they host the invincible ladder leaders Balmoral FC. That game kicks off at 3 p.m. And that takes us through to the end of the Saturday games. Folks, we're going to take a very short break. When we return, we'll be looking at the Women's Victorian Premier League competition, the Women's State League 1 division, as well as the local competitions. After that, we'll be speaking to the coach, speaking of the local competition, coach of Barwon Soccer Club Senior Women's team, who are now in the Women's Division 1 competition after the split at the halfway mark of the season. So, folks, don't go away. There's still a lot more to come in the Game of Two Halves, the local games segment. As the first solar tube skylight installer in Victoria, Scotsco Skylighting has nearly 30 years of experience and offers a variety of services including custom-made skylights, high-quality Velux skylights, and a variety of solar tube daylighting systems. The benefits of having the skylight in your home are many. They let natural light into your space, and with that light comes solar heat, improving your mood and even helping with performance in workplaces. Plus, heating your home with sunlight can save on heating costs during the chilly seasons. Cosmetic changes like skylights can add equity into your home, and similar to adding mirrors on the walls, skylights can make a room feel bigger and more spacious. It's about time you enjoyed all these benefits plus more. So what are you waiting for? To get a free daylight assessment and installation quote, call our founder and owner Adrian Begg on 0409 823 177 or visit our website at www.scotscoskylights.com.au. Scotsco Skylighting is proudly Geelong owned and operated. Welcome back to the Game of Two Halves podcast, powered by the Geelong Region Soccer Show. It's, I guess, part 2 of our weekend roundup, and now we turn our attention to the women's competition, the Victorian Premier League. On the weekend, round 15 was held, and we had Geelong Galaxy, absolutely stunning form, goal-scoring form, absolutely annihilate Monbulk Rangers, the bottom side, to the tune of 11-0. Now, folks, this is going to take me a while to read out all the goal scorers, but Aya Sano scored 5 goals. That's taken her season's tally to a staggering 23 goals. Sumitoku Aya also scored a hat-trick. Dada Today, she scored 1. Wakalili Azad scored 1. And Madison Fainda also scored 1. So well done to the Geelong Galaxy United women. An 11-0 annihilation of Monbulk Rangers. And as we can see there by the competition standings there, Geelong is quite comfortable in a mid-table position at the moment. If you look at the top 2 there, they certainly are running away with and you know the way they are looking at the moment. Essendon Royals and Brunswick Juventus, who also have a game in hand. Both Essendon Royals and Brunswick Juventus have got a game in hand. You can certainly see that they are looking very, very good for promotion to next year's NPLW competition. But Geelong Galaxy United have certainly had a very good season, 8 wins and 6 losses thus far. But look at that goal difference, 49 goals for, 23 against, and a lot of it has to do with Aya Sano, who has scored 23 of those goals. Next week in round 16 action, an important game for Geelong as they host Spring Hills. Spring Hills currently in 4th position, and they are 4 points ahead of Geelong Galaxy. So a win next week on the home track will get the Galaxy girls to within 1 point of 4th placed Spring Hills. Go Geelong Galaxy. Moving along now to Women's State League 1. This is the competition that has 3 Geelong women's teams in there. And this weekend just gone by, we had one local derby when Lara United hosted Geelong Rangers on Friday night. And it was the home side that ran out 2-0 winners over the bottom-placed Geelong Rangers. Izzy Wilkinson scored 1 goal. That was her 10th goal of the season. And Rachel Zara scoring against her old side. The following day, following 2 days later on Sunday, which was yesterday, Craigieburn City hosted North Geelong, and North Geelong came away with a 2-0 loss. An uncharacteristic performance there by North Geelong, who certainly, it seems, would have lost pace with the top two, who, once again, in this division, they are running away with the top two promotion spots. Bundoora United and Keilor Park, by the way, fought out a 1-1 draw. But North Geelong maintains their spot just in third position with 18 points. Lara United are in seventh spot with 16 points, but they could quite easily have been as high as fourth with a win against with another win if coming up next week, and we'll get to the next week's fixtures very shortly. But the worrying one is the Geelong Rangers. They are in the bottom at the moment. 1 win, 1 draw, and 9 losses from their 11 games so far. So who will the Geelong teams take on this weekend coming? Well, the Geelong Rangers host Mill Park at 3 p.m, so an important game there for the Rangers. They're on their home soil, so hopefully the Rangers women will be able to celebrate with all 3 points. But the big game will be at Elcho Park at 3 p.m, where North Geelong takes on Lara United. The last time these two teams met at Lara Recreation Reserve, Lara United came out the winners, and it'll be interesting to see what eventuates this weekend. Okay, it's time to look at the Geelong men's competition, and then it'll be time to talk all things women's football, local league women's football. But if we have a look there at the men's Division 1 competition standings after 10 rounds, Bell Park on top, followed by Surf Coast, Barwon Blue, and FC Leopold making up the top 4. Over the weekend, we had some surprising results. Surf Coast defeated Barwon Heads 4-1. That wasn't a surprise, but the surprise was Friday night at Estuary Reserve, FC Leopold 3 defeated Bell Park 2, inflicting Bell Park but only their second loss of the season. Geelong Rangers came up against Breakwater Eagles, and it was the Breakwater Eagles that came away from Myers Reserve on Friday night with a 3-2 win over the Rangers. And then finally on Sunday, Armstrong United defeated Barwon White, which is Barwon's second team, 1-0 at Grovedale Reserve. And Armstrong United move to within 3 points of the top 4. They've got the same amount of points as Breakwater Eagles, but a much better goal difference. Barwon White in 7th position, Geelong Rangers in 8th, and down the bottom of the competition standings is Barwon Heads. Folks, but it is now time to welcome to the show our guest in the local game segment, and he's somewhat of a return visitor, someone we always love having on the show. We've had him on the show on several occasions over the past few years, both in his role as the senior head coach of the Barwon women's team, but he's also been heavily involved in the Masters Summer League, which will be back again, I'm sure, in the coming off-season. But a big welcome to a man that we really enjoy having on the show, Simon Blanch. Simon, how are you?
I'm very well, Tonji. How are you?
Very good, mate. Very good. Thank you for joining us on the Game of Two Halves, powered by the Geelong Region Soccer Show. First of all, mate, over the weekend we saw round 1 of the new split competition, if you like, the Division 1 and the Division 2. And if we put the ladder up very quickly, we'll go through the results as well. First of all, it was Deakin Ducks handed Armstrong United a big 5-0 loss. Drysdale Soccer Club hosted Surf Coast, and Surf Coast defeated Drysdale 3-1. Bell Park travelled to Shelton Road Reserve in Ocean Grove and came away with a 3-1 win. And Barwon hosted Lara United. This was on Saturday afternoon, and came away with all 3 points, courtesy of a 4-1 win over Lara United. Tell us a little bit about that game. First of all, how did you find Lara United and the level of competition, and then we'll talk about the actual splitting of the division itself.
Well, just to tie in with that, it's the first time we've played Lara this season. We didn't get a chance to play them before the division split, and it's the first time I've actually coached against a women's team at Lara. They've only had a Division 2 team in the past, So it was an unknown for me going into this game. But the way that the girls have been playing, the way that the girls have been sort of going about their job, I was confident. I'm confident every week. It's something that the girls seem to be firing on all cylinders at the moment. So it was a game that we took the lead with the poor touch. The goalkeeper smacked the ball out. One of our players went to control it, and it flew back into the keeper's net. So I joke with that individual about that poor touch, but luckily they've got thick skin. But yeah, it was a good result. We stuck to our guns of how we play, how we set up. The girl that's been scoring a lot of goals for us didn't register on the weekend, but we had other people pop up with goals. So it was good to see people getting in to the right areas, getting the right results.
Hamilton 2 goals, Sharkey 1 and Cook 1, and for Lara United, Dugan scored the only goal for Lara United. Isn't that interesting? I mean, obviously because there was 15 teams, the division was untenable. Was really it's just, I don't know what the best word to describe it is. Some people have said it was a good thing. Some people have said it was quite farcical. But look, the end result was at the halfway mark of the season, it was always going to be split into a top 8 and I guess a bottom 7. But it's interesting that not everyone played each other once and weren't able to do so. Otherwise, it would have been a 14-round sort of a half season, if you like. But those teams, if we take a look at the ladder, those teams that do make up the top 8, Deakin, Ducks, Black, Barwon, Bell Park, Surf Coast, Surfside Waves, Drysdale, Lara United and Armstrong United. In your opinion, Simon, do you think that's a fair indication of those are the 8 best clubs in Geelong at the moment in the women's competition?
I still haven't played 2 of them yet this season, so I'll save judgment on that just yet.
And who might that be?
We haven't played against Drysdale yet, and we haven't played at Surfside as yet.
Yeah.
But it's something that it's one of those where there's some good coaches, there's some good players, there's players that have played a much higher level now having a kick in this league. And if I sort of segment onto the split of the actual division, it's about time, because I think at the start of the year there was only 4 teams put their hand up to play Division 1. 4 teams there's actually 16. So 4 teams out of 16 only want to play Division 1 is not great. There was only 6 teams in the top division last year. But the year that we've got the World sort of game coming to Australia for the Women's World Cup, we should be championing women's football, really, and especially in Australia, but in this region as a whole. And to have new players wanting to come and play the game, new players or older players that have wanted to come back to play the game, to not get an opportunity or not want to have an opportunity because the FFE didn't split that league. And the players that actually put their hand up to play for the first time this year have had hand-ins like 14-0, 11-0, 10-0. That type of thing week in, week out just isn't fair. It's disheartening for those individuals that have actually come to give it a try, to the point where we had a mother that had her daughter playing with Barwon's juniors. I think it was the under-15s that her daughter plays in. She couldn't train with her own side. So she asked me if it was all right to come and train with us. Barwon's a great club for this. Yes, come on, you're quite welcome. The more the merrier. It's absolutely fantastic, and it's how it welcomes players and how it welcomes people just to enjoy the game. So we've had a number of players that aren't even playing this year, just training with us to get a level of fitness, to see what it's like to have a kick. I just want to encourage people to be able to get out there, strap the boots on and have a kick. It doesn't matter if it's competitive on a weekend or if it's just to train and have a social sort of kick and see where they're at or what level they think they're at or what fitness they haven't got. But it's something that I think the FFE got wrong. And I think this year with the men's league, if you finished in the top 4, but you're going up. And we've seen a sort of really good split of 3 decent leagues now in the men's league. Why couldn't they have done that for the women's league? Right, you finished at the top, or you made the grand final, or whatever it is, you're moving up to make it an even split. So
Simon, that's a good point, and it is a controversial point. Some will say it was Football Victoria's fault. Some will say it was some of the club's fault. Some of the players will actually say it was some of the players that are just wanting it to go too easy. And I guess we could sit here till midnight and look at it from all different angles and all of that kind of stuff. But going forward, I mean, 15 teams. 15 clubs at the moment, and dare I say, and this is a topic of conversation that we thought was solved maybe 2-3 years ago when the same thing happened, but it obviously hasn't. So going forward, let's assume that next year there's going to be even more teams. Let's assume that with the Women's World Cup, there's going to be a lot of girls, women, ladies wanting to play football. And from 15 teams, we may well have close to 20 teams with the juniors coming up through the ranks and what you're not in this. Okay. What do we do in 2024 as far as the local women's competition? So, we don't lose players. We generate quality football and quality competition to make it interesting for both the top and the bottom. What do we need to do? And you're quite an experienced coach in this field.
I think one of the easiest things would be start at the junior levels. There is under 15s, there's no under 16s, there's no under 17s, there's sort of no under it. There's no, if you turn 15, you can't travel because there's an under 15s that go to do the Metro League. If you can't get to play that Metro League, your only option is to play senior football. That's pretty poor. I've got girls that are really quite young, quite small, haven't finished developing to their sort of full height, and they're playing against senior girls that have played a lot of football. So if we get the junior set up right, that gives them a sort of stepping stone into the senior girls. And I think if you keep those junior girls from not disappearing and having that gap, you'll have more players, you'll have more teams at the local sides that you get. We might be able to put 2 teams in, a Division 1 and a Division 2. Have one as we want to go and win the league, like we always do. But the second is a development squad and actually have them as, right, we know that this is a bit more, because it's a step up in the sort of level. But at the same time, don't be disheartened. Let's stick to this, get more game time, have an opportunity. Instead of, I think at the moment, these girls aren't getting the game time, or they are getting game time at certain clubs and they're getting walloped. So let's have that junior setup sorted, and I think the GRFC are going to have to sort of step up and try and assist the FFV there. Now there's no FFV representative in the region, so I think the more we can do, because there should be a lot of sort of junior girls wanting to play football after that World Cup, and I can imagine that the Matildas is going to do pretty well and go far in that cup. Yeah. So why not have that? And it's going to be parents wanting to play. It's going to be the parent and the daughter wanting to come and play football together, potentially in the same team. So,
and that's something that women's football offers that probably the men's version doesn't, is that because of the physicality, or maybe the lack of a relative physicality, even the women's game, you can get a lot more mothers and daughters playing together as opposed to what happens in the men's game. But look, I want to return to something that you said about the fact that now we don't have a Football Victoria representative. And in the past, Foddy Kiprian has done a lot for the women's game. He's set up women's advisory committees. And we know the Geelong Region Football Committee is nothing more than an advisory body. It doesn't run the competitions in Geelong. We know that Football Victoria has its own competitions department. But the fact that, Foddy Kiprian, who keeps his post his Football Victoria employment, he's still involved with women's football up at Geelong Rangers. But how much of a blow for the local soccer community, the local football community, is the fact that Foddy's no longer employed with Football Victoria, and we don't really per se have a proper Football Victoria representative on the ground here?
I think anyone that's played indoor, anyone that's played football has seen or met Foddy. He's always around. He's always about. He's one of those characters that it's someone that you can have a conversation with, someone that you can have a bit of a sort of, right, I've got a question for you, Foddy. What about this? What about that? And I don't think the FFV have done enough for the Geelong region for a long time. And I don't think Foddy by himself was enough to start with. So I think losing Foddy, and I know that you were in the role going back a few years ago.
5-6 years ago now. Yeah.
And I think when the two of you are there, then you had a bit of a say for the Geelong region. We've lost that voice. FFV think of us as a distant relative. It's not really important, Geelong. It's not their be-all, end-all. They're making money out of the region. We're paying our subscriptions. We're paying our registrations, all the rest of it. But there doesn't seem to be anyone that's interested, now Foddy's gone, to say, right, we want to do this for the Geelong region. We want to do this for the western suburbs, or we want to do this. I can't hear any of it.
Yeah.
There is nothing.
Yeah. Does could when we look at the women's side of things, is that one of the reasons more and more clubs have started looking towards the state leagues, i.e. North Geelong, i.e. Geelong Rangers? You know, there has been talk in the past that maybe even Surf Coast down the track could be looking at that option as well. Does women's football, at least at a senior level, run the risk of really, I won't say collapsing because there's too many teams locally, but does it run the risk of really suffering because clubs are just going to turn around and say, well, look, Football Victoria have neglected the local region and the local competition. We might as well just pack up and move our operations to the Melbourne competitions. Could you see that happening, or am I a bit?
I'm gonna say the club that I'm involved in, the volunteers that run the club are fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
The volunteers that run every team in Geelong are what make this league. It's not the FFV. It's the people that put the time and effort in behind the scenes to get teams out on the pitch, to provide quality shirts looking like this with great support from the local businesses. It's something that I think that if the GRFC said, right, we'll run it for you, we'll take it off your hands, they do a much better job because they care about it more. But at the same time, I hear that the FFV are short-staffed to start with. It gets to the point sometimes. This year I've got a team manager, but in the past, I've spoke more to the guy in competitions about fixturing and refixturing and moving this and moving that than I have to my own partner. It's been one of them where it's just been constant. So I know that they're busy and I know that they've got a lot to deal with, but at the same time, why can't it be as important for these girls to be able to have a cake and enjoy than any other team, any other league? And I get that we've got some good representation in the state leagues. But if you're a young girl, let's say 14, 15, 16 in the Geelong region, what are you looking up to if you've got a state league option only and you can't say, right, I'm going to go and play in the local leagues, cut my teeth because I'm going to be 15 jumping up to play in open age football.
Yep.
What am I going to cut my teeth with? What's going to be my options? Or do I just pack in playing? It just needs to be, there's more. And I think everyone that you talk to, we played a game against Barwon Heads. Half time, we were 5-0 up, I think. And I changed my formation. I put one of my youngest girls with one of the least amount of game time experience into a position where, right, you've pretty much got the majority of this half to go and have time on the pitch, to learn, to develop, and to get that game time under your belt. And the coach came to me at half-time after the game and said, "Okay, I see what you did at half-time. Thank you." Because it would have been demoralising for our girls if you'd just kept on plugging away the way you did. So I think everyone has that thought in their head that the FFE don't do enough and they should have split it and they should have done bits and pieces. But it's all great to talk about the past. I want to talk about how good this group of girls that I've got, how good the league is, how strong the league is, how some quality individual players. I've said to some of the guys on the sideline, if you could pick her in a men's team, she'd be in your team sheet straight away. There's some proper quality. So I have the belief in my team that we could go and play at a high level, but could they all commit to travelling to Melbourne? That's where it might fall down. So it's one of those where it's hard. Playing Metro can't be easy. Can't be easy to get there for the parents, all that sort of stuff, where the majority of the parents for my girls are the ones that help me run help me organise, help me set up. I got a message from a guy from his watch that he'd done so many Ks at the weekend fetching balls from the side of the pitch. And without people like that, we'd be stuffed.
Incidental exercise, yeah. If we have a look at that competition again, so we're just looking at the Division 1, and if someone is now thinking, why aren't you looking at Division 2, or why aren't you looking at Division 3? Well, you know what is, we're giving the elite divisions, the elite competitions, a bit of airtime, and they deserve it. And this is maybe one of the things that we want to encourage, is we want clubs to be playing at the highest level, particularly if they're able to be there at that level. So we look at the 8 teams there. Now, obviously, this is round 1. So this is the first round. And I assume there's going to be another, 7 rounds where everyone's going to play each other? Or will there be 2 lots of 7ers? So will there be 14 rounds? Will it be a 14-round competition or a 7-round competition, Simon?
I got fixtures for 9 more rounds because we'd already played 9, so it would have been like 18 in total. Now, our goal difference was pretty fantastic in the first half of the season. One of our girls, a young girl called Cami, pretty much smashed it. She was leading the goal scoring charts. Questions from players that is she going to be able to keep that record if she gets Golden Boot for half a season? Then the next part, is it all going to be combined? Is it going to be separated? If someone now that's in, let's say, was 9th place, is now going to win the Division 2 with lots more goals because they're playing other teams, who knows? It's difficult. It's hard for those girls to process. But now, as a coach, I know I can say to these girls, there's no easy game. We're where we need to be. Let's prove to everyone else what we can do and how we play.
Well, just looking at the fixtures here, and it looks like it is a 9-round season, if you like, or a half season, or whatever you want to call it, the second phase of the season. Barwon ends up playing Lara United twice and Bell Park twice, and everyone else once, it would seem, or so it would seem. So it kind of does end up being a bit lopsided, I guess. But look, at the end of the day, week in, week out, you'll be playing against some quality teams. But my question now is, how will they determine promotion relegation from Division 2? So will the bottom team from Division 1 get relegated? Will they stay and they'll just add another team or 2 teams from Division 2? Will it all depend on who wants to play next year? Will it depend on how many teams? It seems really like almost like a season by season proposition, doesn't it? Has any correspondence been given out to the clubs as to what happens at season's end?
You're talking about the FFV knowing what they want to do first. I think the merry-go-round that is the women's football, clubs will say, we want to play in Division 2, we want to play in Division 1, and then the FFV will go, yeah, right, we'll sort it out from there. But until those clubs actually put that forward, they'll have the same issue that they've got this year. No, I'm not mentioning any names, and I'm not saying it's any clubs in the Women's League, but I've seen it in the men's where they've gone, let's drop back into Div 3 and win Div 3 at a canter. Let's drop back and have an easier season. Let's get a flag up on the wall in the clubhouse. So I'm not saying any of the women's teams are going to do that, but I know for a fact that if your coach, your setup, your chairman of your club, president, whatever it may be, has confidence in your team and in your coach, why not go for Division 1? I asked a question a couple of years ago to Lara, how do you have a state league side but no Division 1 Saturday side? I thought the rule was you couldn't be a detriment to the local league. And all I did was ask a question on social media, on Facebook, and I got absolutely berated by fans, players, whatever it was from that team. And they all thought it was a bit of a joke, saying, get your facts right. I said, no, I'm asking a question why you don't have a Division 1 side if you've got state league. Because anyone that wants to go up in the state league, I thought the rule was that you had to have at least a Division 1 side in the men's. What's the difference? Why is it not the same when it comes to men's and women's football? We all talk about equality. I've got a shirt from the Pride round on. I mean, I'm proud to wear this shirt. I'm proud of every single player I've got. I don't care their background. I think we should be supporting every single individual, doesn't matter where from, what background to be able to play football at a level. And I've got people that are so competitive that they just want to just do everything for the shirt and everything for the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got people that are coming through that are just learning that. But you can see that competitive nature. And why can't we do the same as the men?
Absolutely, and I think we should be able to cater for all levels. And that point about clubs not wanting to get, or teams not wanting to get promoted the following season if they've earned it. Remember, it's the club that gets promoted. It's not that individual team. And if the club gets promoted, like everywhere else, it's up to the club now to recruit or to find new blood or blood juniors, and that should be the case. But yeah, there was too much. It was like the social league going troppo, really extra social. But let's concentrate on some positive things. Dale Harris, who's the senior men's coach there at Barwon Soccer Club, big cheers to Dale. He says, credit to Big Simon. He has our ladies playing a good brand of football and very competitive. He has given some young ladies an opportunity to test themselves at senior level, and his judgment has been spot on. We at Barwon are very lucky to have him. Thank you, Dale. We've got Vlado Jakic. He says, Division 1 looks like a very even competition. That's great for the local game. Like Simon said, the blowouts of 10-plus goals don't benefit either team. May have the right outcome now as well. So if we've got any questions out there, or if you've got any comments about the state of women's football here in Geelong and what needs to be done, we'd love to hear from some players as well. We've heard from those two gentlemen who were both involved as coaches and yourself, but we want to hear from some of the lasses out there as well. What do you think is happening at the moment? That's good, that's bad, that maybe needs to be worked on. We'd love to hear from you. But Simon, let's talk about Barwon Soccer Club as a whole. We're mentioning Dale Harris there. Such a big club, and it's getting bigger. But unfortunately, one of the things that's really stopping the further expansion of Barwon is the lack of grounds. We know that that's a big problem at Grovedale Reserve. And also there's always the problem of coaches constantly, needing top quality coaches at all levels, not just the senior level. But how are things going at Barwon Soccer Club this year? It's a great community club that's done so much for the game here, for the sport. We want to know what's the latest there at Barwon Soccer Club and how it's all functioning off the field.
I've only got one negative, and this is going to be funny. I think Colin might be cringing, or Dale will be thinking, what is it? It's the lack of parking. It's that popular. It's on a night time when we train, there's that many junior teams. It's absolutely fantastic to see that many kids actually enjoying the sport. It's beautiful. It's lovely.
Yeah.
You can see so many parents standing at the side. Doesn't matter what the weather conditions are like. The kids are still enjoying having a kick. So I think one of the best things that Barwon does is their junior program. And I think I'm very lucky that the actual people that run the club are fantastic. You can have a conversation with them. You can engage with them. They're all passionate. They're all volunteers. I see so many of these guys near enough every night of the week at the club. And then there's the weekend and they're at every game, or they're on both days. I don't know if you've had a stick of rock before, but the likes of Colin and Dale, you can cut them in half and it'll say Barwon inside them. It's that type of thing that these two guys are absolutely fantastic, but they wouldn't be anywhere without the committee and the guys that work in the committee behind them.
That is a very good point. So, and Colin actually is tuning in, so a big cheerio to Colin Drane, the president of Barwon Soccer Club. Great interview, Simon. Good points, well made. Really enjoying watching the women this season. There you go. You haven't earned the ire of the president. On the contrary, you've earned some great praise and some well-deserved praise. Simon, we look forward to following the rest of the local league women's competition, the Women's Division 1 and the Division 2, to see how the teams progress and how your team progresses. But thank you for coming on the show. It's going to be a huge period, a huge next month or two for women's football. And we've just furthering the earlier to the day, I think it was, I've got to bring this up. Brenton Ray makes a point here. The World Cup ticket update at the moment. All the Matildas games in Sydney, Brisbane and Melbourne are sold out. The final games are all sold out in Sydney, Brisbane and Melbourne. And then there's a whole heap of availabilities at the moment. and he's saying that this is already rating as something like 70% tickets have been sold for the Australian games, making it one of the most popular Women's World Cup already. So, and that's 2 weeks to go before the actual World Cup kicks off. So it's going to be huge. Unfortunately, we haven't had the support from the mainstream media here in Australia, but expect that to pick up in the next week or so as everyone jumps on the bandwagon. But, mate, I hope we're all ready for the avalanche of young girls, women, and indeed probably boys as well that will want to emulate the Matildas and take up soccer, because I think we're in for an absolute boom period in the next 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, I think if the FFE get it right, it could be an absolute flyer. It could be absolutely massive.
Yeah,
let's see how big it grows.
That's right. Good on you, Simon Blanche, the coach of the Barwon Women's Soccer Club, or the Barwon Soccer Club women's team. It's an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Good night.
Cheers.
Okay, folks, and that brings us to the very, very end of tonight's show. Thank you for being a part of tonight's show. We really, really appreciate you being here with us tonight. And please become a member of the Game of Two Halves podcast and receive the exclusive Geelong Weekly Football News Bulletin. Down here in the ticker is all the details. Every Friday you will receive the bulletin via email direct to your inbox, and sign up now for as little as $5 per month. And there's the address, www.patreon.com/Geelong Region Soccer Show. Support the show that supports your sport, because we're only as good as the people that support it. And that was evident by the interview tonight with Simon Blanche. Folks, next week we've got a big show for you. We're going to be talking to a representative of Geelong Galaxy United. Hopefully it'll be the president, Marina Krasic, and she'll be talking about some very exciting on-field and off-field things happening at Galaxy. And as the Women's World Cup starts to get nearer and nearer, we will be also speaking to a young girl from Geelong. She's a Geelong girl who is currently playing in the NPL Victoria competition. Unfortunately, not with the Geelong team, because we no longer have a Geelong team in the NPLW competition. But that may change in a season or two. We certainly hope that is the case. But in the meantime, we've got about 3 or 4 girls from Geelong, in fact, playing up at NPLW clubs. We will be speaking to one of those girls in next week's show. And once again, thank you for being a part of tonight's show. Have a great week and an enjoyable week, and do get out and about next week, because there's only like a few more weeks. Well, there's not that many weeks to go, another month and a half before this current season finishes, and then we'll be wondering what do we do with all of this spare time. Folks, it's been an absolute pleasure being with you tonight, and thank you for tuning in. Until next Monday night at 8 p.m, good night.